The unthinkable has happened, and Mick Claridge has surpassed Michel Dodignan in the points championship. Winning 3 out of the last 4 races, Mick's return to form gives us a juicy chase for the crown. He and the Frenchman are separated by only 5 points. But the driver trailing these two, Billy Bob Wright, counts Phillip Island as happy hunting ground for himself. And the reigning champion, Ove Trangrade, is never far behind to pick up wins. Will this Australian track give us another unexpected twist? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vanderveld. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, all eyes have been on Bathurst the last few weeks when it comes to Australian tracks, but this one definitely deserves some notoriety as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe, because what would you expect from a location that has a history stretching more than 90 years? Located just off the southern Australian coast, Phillip Island hosted its first race in 1928 on a combination of public roads. But despite the love for racing on the island, competition was halted several times due to the start of World War II, financial problems and heavy required maintenance. But like a boomerang, racing always returned to Phillip Island, and the current 4.4 kilometer track stems from 1988. Now, in the last 30 years, you can basically find any type of motorsport here, from motorcycle races to sport and touring cars, and of course, open wheelers. And the Lotus 49 we see today, in this car I would describe Phillip Island as a track where patience is essential. You need to stay calm, not only in the long sweeping corners where you feel the lack of downforce, but also on the exits of several hairpins where having too much wheel spin will make you a target for an overtake from behind. Now, overtaking in general will be difficult around here, but watch for drivers getting a draft coming out of the last corner or out of the southern loop to set themselves up for an overtake. And like you said, Joe, several drivers are in the running for the victory here today. But before we take a look where things stand in qualifying, let's hop on board the GSRC Lotus 49 as we take you for a lap around Phillip Island.
All right, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Phillip Island. Coming down the Gardner Straight, let the car drift to the left and get ready to slow up for Doohan. This quick sweeper offers something of a passing opportunity, but trying to slip through here too wide can be pretty scary. Be prepared for some intense battles in this first corner. Then bring it back to the right as best you can and get the car rotated into the southern loop. You don't want to apex too early around this extremely long bend. Set yourself up so that you can get off the exit smoothly and confidently on the power. From there, it's a short burst to Stoner where you can't quite take it flat out. Feather the throttle until you're confident you won't understeer into the grass. But don't get too eager because before you know it, you're braking for Honda. This is another spot where a lot of passes will tend to take place. You only get a short squirt of the throttle before you're chucked into Siberia. Despite a fair bit of camber here, it's best to try and late apex this uphill bend. It's going to be especially tricky to get the power down here because of the kink of turn 7. A little safety lift to about 90% throttle will keep the car from swapping ends on you. Then lift through 8, give another stab to the power, and finally scrub off speed up and around Lukey Heights. Hug the inside of the corner all the way to the exit so that you can have the proper line into MG. Don't let the slow speeds fool you because the downhill braking into this hairpin makes it easy to overshoot the apex. After that, the track immediately switches back through turn 11 where you've got to wait patiently before fully getting onto the gas. Then comes what I think is the most fun corner of the circuit. Give it a big lift coming into 12, but tuck the wheel right up to the inside curb. Slowly feed on the power and counter steer to keep the car straight so that you can really fly out of here. Hopefully you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Phillip Island.
You see a lap here around Phillip Island, and well, we've got 4 rounds left in the championship. And as we talked about, things have gotten very interesting lately. Let's look at the F1 points first. Of course, Mick Claridge up at the top, displacing Michel Dodignan. With Michel winning the first 4 rounds, we really did not think that was going to happen. Billy Bob Wright also moves himself up to 3rd, but he's a long ways back. It's going to take some extenuating circumstances for he or Dave Price to try to take the championship. But, well, you never know around here. Gary Teal, of course, sitting down in 5th as well, 101 points back with only 4 rounds and 50 points per round max it's unlikely that Gary's going to be in this thing. So let's take a look at the F2 championship. Johan, is it tight over there?
Well, at the top it's not really tight. David Rossi, as you can see, has an incredible lead of 46 points over Hideki Kofisto. But David Rossi missed last time around in Road Atlanta, so that gap that he has to Hideki Kofisto just shrinking down a little bit by a little bit. The battle for P2, however, is shrinking even faster. Andrew Eng was the driver last time around with basically the most points gained in the top 5, so he closes down the gap to Hideki Kofisto. Everything in the Formula 2 category is getting tighter and tighter.
Now, we also have a Constructors' Championship that we follow, and the UK currently up top, of course, with Claridge contributing the vast majority of those points. But look at this. The US still in second place over Dudignon, down in third, joined by Boskus, who has just added a few of those points. Now, Marco Kika and Koivisto and Toika have been steadily adding points in, but they've got some work to do before they can really try to topple the likes of the UK, the US, and France. In fact, they need to worry a little bit more about Australia, but not today, ironically, because of Bathurst happening. We don't have too many Aussie drivers out there competing, at least in this round. They might be back next week. What about the details for today's race? What do we have in store out here, Johan?
Yeah, it's a shame the Australians aren't here today in their home GP. Round 9 of the 12-round championship in the Lotus 49s. 2 watermarks, that means 2 drop weeks. In other words, the 2 worst results of each driver get removed from the championship contention at the end of the season. The race distance here is 24 laps in open setups, and the points pay out to 25th position.
Now, if you enjoy this, not only can you watch this race, and we hope you stick around for this because you still got a lot of Bathurst left, but you can catch Bathurst here on the iRacing Esports Network, as well as all the World Championship races and many other series here from GSRC. All you got to do is click subscribe and you won't miss a moment. Now, if you have been enjoying lately here on GSRC, you may have noticed that we've been mentioning one of our sponsors lately. Let's give them a shout out once again, because if you do independent vehicle inspection, there is a lot to keep track of. Whether it's an old school pile of paper documents or a computer full of spreadsheets, it can get overwhelming. But we have great news for you. Inspect a Ride is the fastest way to conduct your vehicle inspections and create reports. You can save time, eliminate paper, keep better inspection reports, and simplify your life all from your iPhone, iPad, or Android phone or tablet. You can find out more about this useful app at inspectoride.com/iRacing, where you can even download a free trial to find out if Inspect a Ride is right for you. So check it out. Once again, that address is inspectoride.com/iRacing. Free trial waiting for you to help you out and simplify your life. Looking at qualifying, though, right now, up at the top, it is Michel Dudignon leading Dave Price by a pretty fair gap, and Mick Claridge is yet to get his first-time lap in.
Mick Claridge is actually coming through the last corner now. This will be his only lap time. He had an off track in the first lap. Coming over start finish, he will set a 1:29.1, only 6th place for our championship leader. Very far down, because we were wondering in practice who will get pole. Dave Price, Michel Dudignon, Mick Claridge were all so close. So the fact that Mick only starts in P6, well, that's a qualifying disaster for him.
It seems to have been a weak point for him this season, that's for sure. As we watch Andrew Eng come around to complete a warm-up lap. He's got both of his timed ones in today, 31.2 being his fastest. I believe, do we have anybody else doing laps? Looks like everybody's got theirs in here with a minute and a half left to go. So our grid is set. Oh, and Mick Claridge is reporting he's having some hardware problems, it looks like. So
he's not the only one, because Dave Price is also mentioning that. And Dave Price, of course, is our P2 driver. So let's hope that it is not too bad for the drivers out here and everyone can start this race stutter-free.
Yeah, we want to see a chase for Michel Dudignon. He's had too many opportunities to scamper off into the distance so far this season. We'd love to see some excitement up front, but that doesn't mean that we won't get it, because he has not been mistake-free lately. So let's go through our starting grid. It is going to be Michel Dudignon, who will be on the pole with nearly half a second ahead of Dave Price. They're completing the front row. Ove Trangrade, I mentioned him before. He is only 2/10 behind Dave Price. Let's see if he'll have the pace for Dudignon as well, sitting there in third. Bruce Nelson will be P4, and then Rob Olenek starts fifth. Rob wasn't looking so good in one of the practice sessions before. Seems like he's picked up the pace a little bit. Then there's the driver we mentioned that we watched complete his qualifying, Mick Claridge, our leader in the championship. If he manages to finish second, that'll tie things up once again. That'll switch it back, I believe, back in favor of Michel Dudignon, who will retake the championship lead. Marco Kika will start behind him in 7th place. Gary Teal will be P8 at the drop of the green with Billy Bob Wright. Did not get a good qualifying considering how well he's performed here before. He'll be 9th. Daniel Sadro will round out our top 10.
Phillip is the first driver outside of that. He will start in P11 just in front of David Rossi, who will probably be very happy with the qualifying spot. He is 1 place in front of Hideki Corfisto, and I think that if he stays there, it's pretty sure that David Rossi will grab the title in the Formula 2 category. Francisco Javier Gutierrez starts the race in P14 just in front of Don Good and Andrew Ang, who's trying to chase down Hideki Corfisto for P2 in the Formula 2 Championship. Andres Bruno starts the race in P17. He shares row 9 with Harry Grubler, and the last driver on the grid today is Ivan Jojo.
So even though it's a relatively small field, this is a good turnout compared to what we've seen in some of the very early seasons. It's so great to see the health of this series continue to climb and improve. Look at that beautiful row of cars all the way down to the back here in Australia. As the lights come up, the engines rev. Green flag is out here in round 9 for the Grand Prix Legends Series. Michel Dudignon leads them away. We got a car with a horrible start. That is Bruce Nelson falling backwards and up to the front. Is that Dave Price taking the lead? Indeed, Dave Price manages to overtake Michel Dudignon around the outside of the first corner. They come into the southern loop. We got a car spinning off to the inside. That's Ove Trangrade taking control of the car, and then someone is off to the outside as well.
That's Rob Olenek. Rob Olenek had to avoid Mick Claridge, who was sliding, trying to avoid Ove Trangrade on the inside. Several drivers in the gravel there. Also several drivers out of the race. Marco Kika blew his engine going off from the grid. Phillip didn't anticipate that. He had to avoid the slow driving Marco Kika and hit the wall quite hard. So I think it's the race over for both those drivers.
Wow, what a wild start. We asked for a race and our wish has been granted. Dave Price now up to the front, leading Michel Dudignon ahead of Mick Claridge, who's gained 3 positions on the first lap. He's already got himself onto the podium. They're stretching away from Bruce Nelson back there in 4th as they already come down to MG corner, try to get the cars woed up into this downhill bend. Got a little bit of action behind them in the midfield. Ove Trangrade coming back through past Hideki Corfisto. That gets him 11th place. But otherwise, it is mostly single file.
Up front though, it is Michel Dudignon looking very feisty. Mick Claridge cannot really follow this battle for now, but Michel Dudignon can follow Dave Price. He takes a look around the outside on Gardner Straight, going towards Doohan Corner. Very difficult corner to go side by side. Dave Price on the inside starts sliding a little bit, but sliding here means that you have the inside in the southern loop as well. Michel Dudignon once again takes a look on the outside. Cannot stay there though, has to give in. Now what does it mean for Mick Claridge? Mick Claridge immediately halves the distance between himself and the rivals. Dave Price can defend P1 for now, going towards Honda Corner. This is one of the best overtaking opportunities, a very hard braking zone. Dave Price defends the inside. Michel Dudignon takes a look around the outside, but all these cars are under a blanket now as they go to Siberia, Joe.
Dudignon not interested in waiting around as he pokes and prods on either side, but nothing working. And as you mentioned, Claridge is right on top of them. Now they hit the uphill towards Lukey Heights. Michel can't really find a way through the cars, needing to lift ever so slightly through these corners. And then the left-hander at the decreasing radius as he starts to slide wide. Mick Claridge can't do anything with that one. To MG for the second time. All 3 cars desperate to try and take advantage of Dave Price, who is clearly the cork in the bottle. Before they finish the second lap, it is 3 tenths, 4 tenths separating our top three.
There was almost contact, heavy contact between Mick and Michel going into MG there. Mick took a little look on the inside. Now, luckily for Michel, he saw that, could take around the outside line. But like you're saying, Dave Price is holding up the two drivers behind him as they're going through Doohan corner one more time. This time around, Dave Price is around 1 or 2 car lengths more in front of Michel Dudillon, so he doesn't have to go side by side. He can drive his normal preferred racing line as Mick Claridge is chewing popcorn behind him. He's waiting before they make a mistake, go side by side, and he can just swoop in and take the P2 or even P1 position.
There's quite a bit of dirt on the inside of the entry into the southern loop. Not sure if that's going to affect how these cars drive around there, but through Honda, nobody poking their nose out this time. Looks like Michel has found a little bit of patience, and a mistake from Mick takes him off course. He doesn't quite lose the position yet. He's slow off the corner, but now he's going to have a fight on his hands with Bruce Nelson coming up behind him. This makes it now 2 and possibly an easier ask for Michel Dudillon, now only having 1 car to tend with.
Claridge hit the grass there on the rundown towards Siberia corner. That unsettled his car, and when he went on the brakes, he immediately spun around. Now this is bad news, especially for Dave Price, because Michel Dudillon only has to look forward now. He has nothing to fear from Mick Claridge behind. The gap between Mick and Michel is over 3 seconds, so Michel can fully focus on attacking the car in front as they're coming around the last corner this time around. Again, Michel Dudillon has a great draft coming over the start-finish straight. Once again, takes a look on the inside of Doohan corner, slots back to the racing line, however, under braking.
It looks like that draft is just enough to be tantalizing, but not quite enough to give him a good opportunity. Around the southern loop, they go once again. And Michel Dudillon looking for that one gap, that one opening. He's very close this time. Is this going to be enough up into Doohan? Doesn't quite look like it. Another defensive move from Dave Price down into that right-hand hairpin. And Mick Claridge is already setting sight to try and regain that time. He's 3.5 seconds back. He's leaving a gap back to Bruce Nelson, who is instead fighting a rear guard with Gary Teal trying to overtake.
And it will be interesting to see if Mick Claridge actually can close down the gap. In practice, we were talking about it. The top 3, Price, Dudillon, and Claridge, basically had the same speed. Dudillon was slightly quicker than the other two, but roughly they had all the same speed. Now, however, Claridge has to bridge 3 seconds to really jump in this battle again. Now, of course, Price and Dudillon are fighting, but the Brit has to close it down quickly, because if Dudillon finds his way past, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the Frenchman disappearing on the horizon.
Man, I feel bad for the mid-packers because they've been having great battles that we're seeing right here that we haven't really been able to watch because of the excitement up front. This is essentially all for fourth place. That's Bruce Snelson. As we've jumped back to 8th as well, that's Olenek and Trangrade. They've been slicing through the field ever since they were sent backwards for their first lap mistake. Trangrade's going to overtake Rob for that 8th place.
And not only that, over Trangrade is setting the quickest lap of the race last time around, so the Norwegian is really on fire. That makes me wonder, Joe, what would have happened if over Trangrade didn't have that small mistake coming into the southern loop lap 1. He might have been right up there with Dave Price and Michel Dudillon fighting for P1. However, that battle between those two drivers is heating up. They're nose to tail going through Honda corner, through Siberia. The gap increases to around 1 car length, but I think Michel Dudillon took a little look on the inside there of Honda corner. Another poke really to destroy the confidence that Dave Price had and try to take P1 away from him. In the meantime, Mick Claridge behind them. The gap between Mick and Michel Dudillon is increasing. 3.6 seconds between the two drivers now. Mick Claridge at this point just cannot follow the two drivers in front.
Oof, that's a shame for him, considering he was well into that fight. So we take a look at Ove, who's got another spot after half a lap. He is charging. I'm with you. There's a lot of what could have beens. And up next for him is Billy Bob Wright, who's not too far behind Teal and Snelson. I'd say Ove is looking at potentially 4th place.
Absolutely. Good battle though between Teal and Snelson. Snelson made a mistake coming through turn 10 last time around in the corner. Gary Teal almost had a look on the inside. It could almost swing it side by side through turn 11 and 12. Didn't manage so. So this time around through Southern Loop, he has to stay behind. But again, it's Bruce Nelson just taking a slightly wider line, slipping a little bit away. And it gives the opportunity to
we got to go back to the
over
front.
Tranger.
Michel Dudignon trying to go around the outside, and this is the closest he's been. Had his nose come fully alongside the likes of Dave Price and just could not make it stick around the outside of Honda. But he's getting ever closer to making this pass work. And I wonder, how long will it be before Dave Price cracks? Can he keep this lead for this entire race? He's got a long ways to go.
There's a very hard task for him. The only thing that Dave Price can hope at this moment is that because of the battling, the other drivers will join that battle for the lead. Basically take some of the pressure off that Michel Dudignon is currently putting on him. However, I want to put maybe some emphasis, if we can, on the battle for P4, because there's a pass going on there now. Bruce Nelson side by side with Gary Thiel. All these drivers like hornets in a jar, just screeching over the track, left, right, trying to find a position for an overtake.
But it looks like Dudignon's finally got the run. Sorry to cut you off again. Down the front stretch, he finally makes it work. He used the draft to make the pass stick, and it took him about 6 laps to finally overtake the likes of Dave Price. You can see actually, I don't think he even used the draft, just got himself a better run. Dave Price knew it. He held off to the side and let the Frenchman through.
But I think it was Dave Price making a slight mistake on the exit of turn 12. And the throttle, he had a slight sideways moment. And that cost him all the traction that he needed to stay in front of Michel Dudignon. The French driver immediately pounced on that, got by him, and he is now P1.
Well, now we can focus on this amazing battle because we got 3 wide. Oh! Billy Bob Wright comes together with Rob Olenek, and both of them off into the tires before Siberia.
Wow, I don't know exactly what happened there. It almost seems like Billy Bob Wright had a small oversteer moment there. His car suddenly got very sideways and steered right into the front of Rob Olenek, sending both cars into the tire barrier. You can see there on the replay just giving it a slight touch, and that was all that was needed to really end up in the tire barrier. So we go on board with Rob Olenek. Great battle though, how they were 3 wide there.
Yeah, I almost wonder if Bob, he just didn't know that he was there. Yeah, he kind of veered over slightly, and it was marginal on whether he was in there. Both of them find themselves retiring, I believe. No, it looks like Billy Bob's got his car going once again, but down in 11th. Well, that takes away a few cars from that big battle that we were watching in the mid-pack. Snelson still leads them in 4th. Gary Thiel still holding 5th, but now Ove Trangerade promoted up to 6th.
Yeah, the Norwegian can try to really close down the gap to the drivers in front. Like you said, a P5 position surely is in the air for Ove Trangerade. In the meantime, out in the lead, it is still maybe a race victory for Dave Price. The gap between him and Michel Dudignon hasn't grown that dramatically though. You can see it on top of the screen, only half a second between the two. Dave Price for now can quite comfortably stay close to Dudignon.
Wonder if this is due to the draft that Dave Price is able to just ride the coattails of the fast Frenchman. Down into MG, certainly not so much with this short little straight. But here we'll see, coming on the front stretch, will he start to gain? Let's watch Dave Price and see if he's figured out how to maybe find that last little bit of speed to keep Dudignon on his toes.
Yeah, once again, you can see it there, working the wheel a little bit, slide oversteer for Dave Price. That costs him a little bit. If Dudignon, I was thinking about it, Joe, can actually grab the win, this will be the first time in 5 races that we see the Frenchman on top at the end of the race. Of course, he had a great start of the season with 4 wins in a row. Then a little dry spell happened, but with the performance that he's showing now and also the speed that he had in practice, it looks like the Frenchman is on his way for a victory. That will be the first one in over a month.
Absolutely. But we got to go back to 5th once again because Snelson, who is a little bit ahead of Thiel, might have a break now because Trangerade looks set to try and overtake on Gary. He's not going to try it down into Honda quite yet, but he was awful close.
Still under a blanket, the 3 of them going towards Siberia. You can see Ove Trangerade trying a different line there. trying to take a really wide line, some more momentum on the apex of the corner. Doesn't work out for him though, because both drivers got a little bit of oversteer. They have to follow each other through this very slingy section, very twisty section, turn 7, turn 8, up towards Lukey Heights. Difficult corner though. This is one of the most difficult corners I always find in the Lotus 49. You have to brake and at the same time have to turn, set yourself up for turn 10 here. Bruce Nelson making a small mistake though. He goes wide, bunches up Gary Thiel. Now maybe over Trangerade has a small opportunity. Coming through turn 11, through turn 12 now. This is one of the best overtaking places on the track. You need a good run through here, then use the draft. Look at over Trangerade. He has so much momentum coming out of the last corner, right on the gearbox of Gary Thiel in front of him. He takes a look on the inside, side by side towards dual corner. Who can brake later? It seems like it's Gary Thiel chopping off the nose there of over Trangerade, staying P5 and P6 as they were.
Oh, Trangerade's so close. He's still going to try around the outside of the southern loop, but nothing working there. Every single time he tries to get through. Now he's got it. Maybe he gets a run, but his momentum interrupted up towards Stoner. Very marginal in this car as they both swing wide, and he loses his chance down to Honda. Or does he? A little bit wide. Gary Thiel opens the door for Ove Trangerade, but can't gun it off the corner. It now switches back into Siberia. He's going to try to use the banking to go the long way around. There's no grip out there. Ove Trangerade has got to be hitting his head, wondering, how do I get by this guy?
It's so difficult to get by on the outside here at Phillip Island. All those long corners are... once you got the inside of those corners, you have so much radius that you're the inside, so much less track to cover. It is way easier compared to other tracks to actually stay in front of your rivals. And you could see Gary Thiel just diving to the inside there. That was enough to stay in front of Over Trangerade. However, I think that Gary Thiel has gotten the alarm now. He knows how quick Over Trangerade is behind him. And he knows that the Norwegian will come knocking on the door very quickly again.
And how about this? They didn't lose Bruce Nelson and all of that fighting, which is incredible. They're still right behind. So as they come down the front stretch again, looks like the slipstream's going to bring him in slightly, but not quite a lot, not quite enough. And Gary Thiel's not going to get an opportunity. Neither is Ove Trangerade. We got a car off. I think that's the lapped car of, looks like Andrew Ang letting them by. But he's got a great run off the corner once again. Could he outbrake him down into the hairpin? Looks like Thiel's going to cover him off once again. Looks to go the long way around. It didn't work last time. Maybe tries to keep his nose in up towards Siberia, but no, just not enough. And as that was happening, we had an overtake down for 9th.
Yeah, Billy Bob Wright got finally by Hideki Kofisto. We go to a replay of it here. He just had a great run out of the last corner. Immediately in the draft of Hideki Kofisto. That was all that Billy Bob needed to get back to P9 in this case. He's trying to close down the gap to David Rossi, who's in P8. Ooh, as we see one of the cars going off the track. That's Gary Thiel off the track. There was an exit of Lukey Heights, trying to make an overtake on Bruce Nelson, I think that was. And while doing that, he lost the position to Over Trangerade.
All this messing around, and he finally made a mistake. And now this is weird. It's at the very end of the corner. I'm not sure what happened. It's just like he straight lined, but then he's got control of the car, so I don't think it's a hardware failure.
It's almost like maybe a hardware freeze or something for maybe a second. The way the car just went straight for a few seconds. Because you know as a driver that you have to turn left there, or at least follow the corner. Great avoidance maneuvers from Over Trangerade at the same time to take turn 10 in a very wide line and avoid Gary Thiel going over the grass there. Over Trangerade immediately on the gearbox of Bruce Nelson. So you can see them here going through Stoner corner towards Honda corner on the grass. It is Bruce Nelson. That's very difficult to brake there. He cannot control it. Sliding through Honda corner. Over Trangerade gets by. Gary Thiel gets by. That is also Daniel Cedros side by side. He gets by as well. 3 positions lost for Bruce Nelson. He falls back to P6.
2 cars in a row go off to do some gardening, handing over 2 spots in 1 lap to Ove Trangerade. Credit to Bruce Nelson for gathering this car back together and making the best of an awful situation. Now, unfortunately, that has set him down into 7th place. Thiel and Sadro now through Now, how far up has Sadro gone with all of this? He started in 10th place. He's up to 6th now. The number 6 car has made steady progress as everybody else has been falling by the wayside at this difficult Australian track just as we hit the halfway point.
Very consistent driving from Daniel Sedler there. Maybe we should put, as things are calming down, also a little bit the camera on David Rossi. He is another driver who's very steady at this point of the race, gaining 4 positions so far in the process. He's driving around at P8 at the moment. Why? Because I think that David Rossi at the moment is winning the Formula 2 battle here at Phillip Island, and with the gap that he had in the championship, I wouldn't be surprised if David Rossi will order some champagne after this race, because the gap that he will have after we leave Phillip Island will be probably enough to seal the deal in the Formula 2 championship. Really good results and really good driving once again from Rossi there.
Wonder if they're going to promote him up to the F1 championship next season with that. He has certainly shown himself to be a steadily improving driver, looking at a potential top 10 here today. We switch over to Sadra once again, who's now trying to chase Gary Teal after all of that. As Ove Trangrade has left both of them in the dust, it has gone from a battle for 4th to a battle for 5th now. You see... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say Ove Trangrade is of course behind Mick Claridge now. The gap between the two drivers is 9.5 seconds though, so Ove Trangrade really has to pick up the pace by almost a second quicker per lap than Mick Claridge to close down the gap for a podium position. I think that will be difficult for him, so the biggest battle will be behind him. I'm curious though as well, Joe, how quick Bruce Nelson is. He was leading this battle all the time, but was he basically the cork that held the bottle, or is he as quick as the drivers that were behind him and are now in front of him?
It's not huge gaps from Teal down to Sadro down to Snelson, so I think we'll find out soon enough as this battle either spreads apart or closes in. You brought up an interesting point before the race about Michel Dudignon and his championship run here and how many errors he can have. That the drop weeks always make this thing fascinating. I think that despite Michel's speed, puts him in a very precarious position.
Yeah, absolutely, because looking at the championship standings as they stand, if Michel Dudillon basically has a no score somewhere in the season, he loses, he has to put one of his drop weeks on that. That means that he scores 16 points. That's the amount of points that he gets for one of his current drop weeks. At the same time, if Mick Claridge makes a mistake, he still gets scored 37 points. So, in other words, to summarize it a little bit, Mick Claridge is much more secure than Michel Dudillon if he makes a mistake. So, even though Michel Dudillon will grab the championship lead if it finishes as it stands, I think that Mick Claridge will still be very calm, because he knows that Michel Dudillon has to be extremely perfect until the end of the season to really get the championship. Mick Claridge, he can permit himself a small mistake here and there.
And this might be one of those mistake races, because he's still in 3rd and still not gaining on Dave Price. Now, it's about holding steady. So if Dave Price himself also makes an error, that could bring the number 2 car back into things. But right now, other than Dudignon streaking away, the top of the field is pretty much holding where they are.
Yeah, and we really have to go to P5, P6, P7 to see a battle. It's between Gary Teal, Daniel Sedro and Bruce Nelson, and these drivers are streaking away from each other a little bit. Because I just saw Daniel Sedro going very sideways through Southern Loop. They didn't give Bruce Nelson an opportunity to close the gap towards them. These are a few of the drivers that are closest between each other at this moment. Another close battle maybe is between for P12, Don Good and Francisco Javier Gutierrez. Those are 2 drivers that we haven't talked about so far this race. The gap between these 2 drivers is around 1 second. This, of course, is the battle for P12. Francisco is a little bit quicker than Don Good last time around 0.3 of a second. Maybe let's keep a half an eye on this battle, but the Iberian driver is slowly closing down the gap to Don Good.
You know, I have to say, all around, this has been a pretty good race for Donnie B. Good. He's qualified fairly well for him, 15th place out of 19 cars. And now, as you mentioned, running in 12th. Oh, but he outbrakes himself. And that's going to let Gutierrez through at Honda corner. Well, make that 13th for Don Good.
And this actually will have small complications as well in the Formula 2 championship. Francisco is currently sitting P6 there. Don Good is sitting P4 there. with Francisco finishing in front of Good, he will just close down the gap even more and more. And with the absence of Robert Reynolds today at Phillip Island, I'm pretty sure that Francisco at least will move himself into the top 5 of the championship.
Let's give a shout out to another driver who's been climbing up the order very, very well. Andre Bruno. He started 17th, and he's currently sitting in 11th. Now, he's got a pretty big gap up to Koivisto. It's about 12 and a half seconds. So it's unlikely that he'll move forward unless anybody ahead of him has a terrible wreck and finds himself out of this race. Still, a 6 positions gained, and this small of a field says a lot there for Andre Bruno, who usually is a backmarker getting lapped, and he's still very well on the lead lap right now. I give a lot of credit to the number 17 car.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that I'm noticing at the moment, you can see that on screen as well, is the difference between cloudy sections of the track and sunny sections of the track. We've heard drivers say that actually, as I see an overtake at the moment, Daniel Cedro getting passed by Bruce Nelson. What an overtake of Bruce Nelson. Let's maybe go to a replay of that, because what a move that was from Bruce Nelson going into MG corner. He really set himself up all down to turn 7, turn 8 through Lukey Heights, and then when he saw the gap in turn 10, he just sent it on the inside, outbraked his rival.
Wow. As much as this is a hairpin, it seems pretty rare that we see overtakes into here, and Snelson set this one up. Look at that. My goodness. Credit to the Northwest driver.
And as
there's still, still going at.
He went off the track. He made a mistake going into turn 1, Bruce Nelson. He went over the grass. And that was all that Daniel Cedro needed to basically retake that P6 position immediately.
Snelson's still close behind him, though. Oh, and did we have an error for Don Good? Oh, I see Don Good out of this race. Let's see. Oh, there's the mistake from Snelson. Off track and bringing it back on. Good for him to stay calm. So what happened to Good here?
Yeah, Don Good had a off out of Siberia last time around. Quite a heavy off, as you can see here on throttle. It just spins it around. Even hits the marshal stand on the inside of the track. Luckily, there's no marshal standing there at the moment. That's heavy damage for Good, and we were praising him that he was having such a good run. Unfortunately for Don Good, he is retired for today. I think that he will end his race in P16 overall.
Yeah, must have damaged the suspension clipping those tires. I'll put my hand up on that one. That was commentator's curse for sure. Back up to our leader, Michel Dudignon has extended the gap to about 3 seconds over Dave Price. So while he is faster than Dave, I don't think that the number 3 car, we can say, is lacking in pace, because it hasn't been leaps and strides that he's been putting Price behind him. And looking back, I think Mick Claridge is starting to chop down on that gap up to second place.
I don't know if I would call it chop down, though. It's more skimming down that gap towards P2, because last time around there was only 1/10 of a second that Mick Claridge, as he got very loose there on the exit of Siberia. That will obviously have hurt Mick Claridge's lap time there. But it seems like the British driver just doesn't have the pace required to close down the gap. And those 2 mistakes that he made today, Joe, those have really hurt him. The mistake in qualifying where he started in P6, and also the mistake that just cost him 3-4 seconds and sent him far from that battle between Dave Price and Michel Dudillon. Without those 2 mistakes, I think that Michel Dudillon would have been one of the drivers for the victory. But with those, I think that P3 is the most that he can take away here in Australia.
Yep, looking a lot more like a potato peeler than it is an axe for Mick Claridge, trying to get Dave Price back up to him. You can see Michel Dudignon continuing to set fastest lap of the race up there and extending his lead. Most of the field starting to spread apart. Our best battle is still for that P6 Daniel Cedro, back ahead of Bruce Nelson. We're down to 6 laps to go at this point. The race dwindling down, and it's starting to look like it's more about who can make the fewest errors. Most of the drivers making overtakes when the car ahead has an off, has a bobble, and opens an opportunity.
Absolutely, and that's really also a contributing factor to the weather. We were talking about it earlier before Bruce Nelson had an overtake. You see that with partly cloudy conditions, there's a lot of cloud coverage, dark, and then suddenly sun again. So the track temperature is actually fluctuating quite a bit. You can see it on screen at the moment: 36 degrees Celsius track temperature, 97 degrees Fahrenheit. While there is some cloud cover, that will immediately drop down the temperature. So the drivers kind of have to keep in mind two different track states while they're driving here at Phillip Island. They can change very, very quickly with each other. At the same time, Bruce Nelson is probably with Daniel Sedgwick the closest battle we have. But another battle that is maybe stretching out a little bit since the last time I saw is the one between Ivan Giorgio and Harry Gruppler. That's a battle for P13. The gap between these two drivers is 1.5 seconds now. But these are two drivers that we don't see a lot here in the Lotus 49 races. But they're having a nice scrap out here. A little bit on the edge of the middle group. They're being chased down by Andrew Eng, who's currently 1 lap down. Now Harry Gruppler started the race in P18. Ivan Giorgio got by him, gaining 6 positions in the process. One of the other hard chargers out here at Phillip Island. But a good battle between these two drivers here with only 5 laps to go.
Now, you'll see a couple cars behind them. One is laps down and one is a lap ahead. That's Rob Olenek coming back as Gruppler finds himself off course coming through Siberia. And that's going to hand both of those over and increase the gap between himself and Jojo. As Michel Dudignon puts another lap on Olenek, who's basically returned just to try to gather some spots from drivers who've DNF'd and get some safety rating. That puts now only 13 cars left on the lead lap with 5 laps to go. The other thing I noticed with that weather, 16-mile-an-hour winds. I think the sea has brought in quite a squall, and that could be what's throwing off a number of these drivers. Now, obviously, they don't have wings to really make them incredibly susceptible, but 16 miles an hour, that'll whip around.
Absolutely, you will feel your car getting pushed around with that for sure. Now, another driver that's maybe being pushed around very quickly is Daniel Sedgwick. He is being chased down by Bruce Nelson. Look at the gap between these two drivers. A few laps ago was 1.5 seconds. This time around, it's less than half a second. Really close together. As Bruce Nelson is trying to get a good run out of the last corner over the Gardner Straight. He's diving in the draft of Daniel Sedgwick, immediately trying to close down P6. Taking a look on the inside towards Doohan Corner. We've seen overtakes him before. He brakes a little bit late, and Daniel Sedgwick has to wait before he can tear in. Tries to get the over and under on the outside of the southern loop, and he cannot stay there. And it's Bruce Nelson chopping down towards the racing line. He gets a P6 position, finally away from Daniel Sedgwick. And he has to focus up now and make sure that he doesn't make a mistake like he did last time to consolidate that 6th position here at Phillip Island.
4 laps to keep it clean, but Sadro's not going to sit behind there and just take it. A defensive move already from Snelson up to Honda Corner. Sadro can't find an opportunity this time as he rides around behind, ups through Siberia. Ooh, a little bit better exit, though, for Bruce Nelson. Looking nice and smooth now. It seems like maybe he's closed in on those gremlins and managed to bottle them up here in the final stages of this race.
Yeah, Bruce Nelson will be happy that he got by Daniel Sedgwick at this point of the race, but I don't know if he will be happy that happy with his result. Losing 2 positions in the process after starting P4, once again making a mistake. You can just see it. A lot of smoke coming away under his wheels when he outbraked himself in turn 10. And that will give Daniel Sedgwick a great run over Gardner Straight. As they're coming through the final corner now. Very loose though, Daniel Sedgwick almost steering himself into the pit wall there. He can, luckily for him, catch it, but that will ruin the overtaking opportunity he had here into Doohan Corner. He has to follow him through Doohan Corner, through Southern Loop to set himself up for a run towards Southern Corner.
Whew, that was a great example of just how monstrous the power is on these cars. That little rise coming off the final corner, giving a headache for Daniel Sadro, costing him a potential chance to pass. But Bruce Nelson has not been without mistakes. He might yet get another opportunity. He once again goes defensive, and there's one right there, swinging wide, coming through Honda Corner. But another bit of wheel spin for Daniel Sadro means he won't get to try up into Siberia. He's still very, very close. They're not going to weave back and forth. up the hill towards Lukey Heights. There's not a whole lot of braking into that long left-hander, and indeed he falls back before he gets the chance.
Coming through Lukey Heights now, it's still nose to tail and under a blanket, these two drivers. Will Daniel Sedgwick try the same thing as Bruce Nelson did? Well, Bruce Nelson cuts him off there. Any thought that Daniel Sedgwick had to throw it on the inside there was squandered by that, but Daniel Sedgwick has a very good tight line through turn 11, setting himself up here through turn 12. Different driving lines. Bruce Nelson a little bit more on the outside, wider line, trying to take more momentum that will help him on these first few meters. Well, Daniel Sedgwick immediately enjoys the draft to get closer to Snelson in front of him. Not enough though, you can see it. He misses 2 car lengths to put his cars side by side. Once again, just like last time, he has to basically fall back in the racing line again. Cannot find a way past. He takes a little look on the inside of the southern loop, but that's way too far to actually be of any danger to Bruce Nelson. Bruce can just easily fend it off for now. And look at that gap between these two drivers. This is way more than last lap.
Well, we're not missing anything up front. This is our closest fight still. I'm not sure if that's a defensive line from Snelson into Honda or if that's just his racing line, as once again he locks him up through the corner, because the last 3 laps he's been holding right in the middle of the road after Stoner. Up towards the top of the course, another bit of wheel spin. Daniel Sadro's weak point seems to be his right foot coming off of the bends. Now down to 2 laps to go. Excuse me, final lap now, because Michel Dudignon has already taken the white flag. The Frenchman is responding. As Johan mentioned earlier on in the race, it's been a while since his last win. One of those was a missed race. He had to take off for real-world duties. And other 3, well, just could not capitalize on his speed, with Mick Claridge beating him to the line. So as he works his way around with just half a lap to go, it's 5 seconds back to Dave Price. Another 6 seconds from Price back to Claridge. Michel Dudignon was dominant at the start of this season. He's trying to bring that trend back. There you see third place driver, a current championship leader, but not for too much longer, we think. Dudignon nice and smooth down through MG corner. May have been a bad start. It may have looked hairy at the early stages of this race, but it only took him about 6 or 7 laps to retake the lead. And from there, he never looked back. Michel Dudignon going to be your winner here in Australia for round 9 of the Grand Prix Legend Series.
Great victory there from Michel Dudignon. Dave Price and Mick Claridge will finish P2 and P3, but let's go to the battle of P6, P7. The battle between Bruce Nelson and Daniel Sedgwick. It's still heating up. They have 3 more corners to go through MG corner. Good line there from Bruce Nelson. This time he didn't outbrake himself. It will be very difficult for Daniel Sedgwick to still find a way past his rifle, because you don't have a heavy braking zone. Coming through the last corner now, he's a little bit too far. 4, 5, 6 car lengths. And also a little bit more sideways there. Daniel Sedgwick cannot find a way past Bruce Nelson, who will finish P6 here at Phillip Island.
Last of the cars trickling across the line. Bruno will, in fact, get himself in 11th place, it looks like, from that 17th grid position. And considering he is the number 17, that'll be a nice bit of iRating gain for the driver from Hispano-America. That's going to take us to a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel, but the broadcast is not over. We've got the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around, because on screen we're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Phillip Island here in Australia. We just watched round 9 of the iRacing Grand Prix Legends Series. Michel Dudillon took his 5th win of the season. We believe that should give him the championship lead back. But it was Dave Price coming home in 2nd place. That'll help his climb up the points order. Mick Claridge, unfortunately, an error meant he could only take 3rd today and complete the podium. Ove Trangrade finishes in 4th, having to come back through the field with his own mistake, setting him backwards. Gary Teal climbs from 8th to a top 5. Then it's Bruce Nelson slipping backwards, finishing 6th, and Daniel Sadro moving forwards instead, taking 7th place. David Rossi all the way up to 8th for him. Good haul of points for his AM championship. And Billy Bob Wright, unfortunately, settles for 9th. His happy hunting ground did not serve him well today. Reki Koi Visto rounds out your top 10.
One of the two hard chargers today is Andres Bruno. He comes home in P11 after gaining 6 positions. Francisco Javier Gutierrez is the last driver on the lead lap. He finished in front of Ivan Jojo, another one of the hard chargers, started in P19. In the end, he won that battle with Harry Grupler in P14. Andrew Ang, one of the drivers that had to make a pit stop in the race and continued after that, finishing 1 lap down, finishes the race in 15th position. Don Good, we saw what happened with him. Unfortunate that he retired. He's classified in P16. The Dory Award goes to Rob Olenek. He, of course, had that big crash early in the race with Billy Bob Wright, but he kept racing out there, classified in P17. And then Michael Kika and Phillip Urquhart already had problems before they reached turn 1. They are classified in P18 and P19.
We've got Dave Price ready to talk to us, the driver finishing 2nd place here today in Australia. Dave, you fought valiantly, but it looks like eventually the Frenchman managed to squeeze through. Oh, we can't quite hear you, Dave. Make sure that Dave's got his mic set up correctly. We can see him lighting up on our end. Oh, was that? I think we heard a little bit of Dave there. Give Dave a few more moments here to try to get this sorted out. But we're hearing little bits of you, Dave, but can't quite make you out. So unfortunately, we'll have to put him aside, let him get his microphone figured out. In the meantime, Johan is going to be talking to Mick Claridge, who managed to climb up to 3rd at least.
Yeah, Mick, welcome to the booth. Well, basically, I want to start with before the race, because in qualifying, you only managed P6. Now, that's something that we're completely not used to from you. What happened in qualifying?
Oh, hi, Johan. I just got a massive screen freeze right in the one of the turns or wherever it was. I can't remember where it was now. I had so many of them in the race as well. But the screen just froze, so I lost the first lap, and then I can't remember. I think it was just a really messy second lap.
Well, of course, that mentioned that you had meant that you had to start the race from P6. However, that lap 1 from you was incredibly effective. You immediately steamed forward to P3.
Yeah, I got a bit caught out by the weather today. I went with 19 PSI on the right rear, and I should have gone to 18.5. I mean, it's that much of a difference, and it's that important. That's what gave me a really good first lap, and then I sort of slowly lost grip as the race went on. And I was trying to get out the slow corners, and I was losing the rear end and all sorts. And there was a couple of laps where I started to catch Dave for a couple of things, and I looked at F1 screen. I thought, 9 laps. Maybe, just maybe, and then I just lost it coming out one of the corners, and I just gave up. Then I just thought, no, I'll have 3rd. That'll be all right.
You just consolidated that P3 position. You mentioned that you struggled more and more with your tires as the race went on. Was that exactly what happened when you were battling with Michel and Dudillon, when you basically went off the track and lost a little bit of time? Was it just the tires giving out?
Are you talking about when I nearly done a half spin in the left-hander? Yeah, no, the screen froze up on me. I've got something. It's not an iRacing issue. I thought it was because I've been trying to practice for the Bathurst 12 hours for today, and I've had massive screen freezes all through that, and I just got one then. So there's something wrong my end. Something's got to be sorted out. I don't know what it is.
Well, good luck with figuring that out at least. Also, good luck with the Bathurst 12 hours today. And congratulations at least with getting P3. The battle's still on between you and Michel for the championship.
Yeah, cheers, man. I mean, I think I was third anyway today. No matter what happened, Dave was faster than me today. Michelle's always faster. Maybe Uwe would have been up there as well if he hadn't been up on the Porsche today. Because he's in Porsche mode today. So yeah, so it was a good race.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, Mick Claridge with P3. He finishes on the podium. Now let's try to get Dave Price back in the booth again. Dave Price finishing P2 here at Phillip Island.
Dave, this is Joe. Do you got a copy?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, Joe?
Now we got you. All right. So let's talk about those opening laps. You snuck by Michel Dudignon. You did a great job holding him back, but it looks like eventually you couldn't hold back the tide.
Yeah, well, it wasn't actually that. I just made a mistake coming out of the final corner onto the start finish, and the car got super loose, and I just had to get out the throttle, otherwise I'd have been in the wall. And so, obviously, that just allowed Michel to breeze on past, and then it was always going to be difficult to catch him from there. It was a couple of tenths, I think, on average, quicker than me. But if I think if I hadn't made the mistake, I just about had the pace to keep him behind me. So a bit frustrating, but it's good fun.
It seems like you and Michelle a little bit tied at the hips in the points here, because both you and he were pretty consistent up at the start of the season. Then you obviously had to miss a couple races, had a bad one at Donington, and now you're back up at the top.
Yeah, I don't think I'll stay there for the rest of the season. I can't make Spa, unfortunately. I'm away that weekend for my wife's birthday, ironically, at a Spa hotel. So I've only really got two other races. We've got Lime Rock and a Monza at the end of the season. But it's nice to be up there and thereabouts. I haven't had the best season, to be honest. This is the first time I've felt I've actually had any decent pace for a little while. So it's nice to be racing towards the front, even if I couldn't quite manage the checkered flag at the end.
Now, we heard mention, obviously, of the Bathurst 12 hours that Mick mentioned Michelle hopefully taking part in. Are you going to be racing with a team today, or are you just focusing on the 49 today?
Yeah, just the 49 today. I've raced a couple of times with the team at Le Mans and then Daytona. But unfortunately, because of other things, I haven't got enough time to do that today. So but I'll be checking in on them and seeing how they're getting on and wishing them well for the day. I think they were actually in the lead in the early race, so fingers crossed.
Oh, that's fantastic. Wish your team the best. And again, congratulations on second place.
Thanks, Joe. See you soon.
That was Dave Price, who came home behind Michel Dudignon, but that is nothing to be ashamed of here in the Lotus 49 series. And that's going to close things up for us today. We want to give another quick thank you and mention to Inspector Ride. If you want to check them out at inspectorride.com/iRacing, and you have good reason to. Again, there is a free trial waiting for you if you go and check out that link to see if that software is right for you. And a thank you goes out to iRacing for bringing us onto the iRacing Esports Network. They've got the Bathurst 12 hours going on right now. If you want to hop over after we're done here, make sure and subscribe to the channel while you're here. Thanks go out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. Now, next race is going to be very, very interesting. We're going to the bull ring that is Lime Rock Park. That'll be Saturday, February 16th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.